Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I am here to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking over the past few days. And the question is, how much is that Charizard VMAX actually worth? And we've not done a lot of videos along these lines, but this is one of the big questions in the Pokemon trading card game community at the moment, and I figured I'd be able to lend a little bit of, I don't want to say expertise, but I think I vaguely know what I'm talking about. I've been doing the research, and I have both pulled and sold a Charizard VMAX, so I feel pretty good about it. Now, starting off, I should mention Charizard V is worth naffle. Charizard V, honestly, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to be, if you want to be selling this, you're going to be getting, in the UK, you're doing pretty well if you can sell this for a tenner. Charizard V over in the US, if you want to go dollars, again, if you can sell this for $10, you're doing pretty well. The reality is, it's not a particularly valuable card. Nobody's particularly excited about Charizard. But Charizard VMAX people are. And maybe it's the playability factor, I quite like it. For me, the best thing about Charizard VMAX, free energy 100 damage, if you stick a Vitality Band on to do an extra 10 damage, and then you attach a triple acceleration energy, which will pay all free colorless energy in one go, you are actually getting a one-hit KO on a Zacian V. Which is not as relevant as it was when Charizard VMAX was first revealed, but it's still kind of relevant. So, as a card, it's kind of playable, kind of cool. It's a kind of card that will be winning here and there, but I don't think it's a powerhouse deck which is going to take over the format. When I first saw it, I liked it a lot more than most people, but now we've gotten to the stage where I really don't think it's, I don't think it's going to be a powerhouse deck. I do think it's going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be a powerhouse deck. So what about Charizard VMAX then? Well, the problem is that when this was first revealed, when it first came out, the prices were going a little bit silly. If we have a little bit of a look at this snapshot from eBay, which happened around about July the 25th, which is essentially when we're starting to talk about pre-releases happening and the card first being pulled, we can see that there was a Charizard VMAX that sold for $500. Now, it does say $500 or best offer, but the offer was not accepted. There's no offer. It doesn't say best offer accepted. It just says sold for $500. And the problem is, all it takes is one or two of those, one or two people paying that much money, and all of a sudden, the price of Charizard VMAX goes a little bit silly. Now, it's not all like that, but if we have a look at a wider scope around about that time, we can see that actually there were a bunch. There were a bunch of these. So around about the same time as somebody bought one for $500, there was a $250 one which had a best offer accepted, a $230 one which sold, a $215 one that had the best offer accepted, two of those in fact, and a $300 one which had the best offer accepted. Or to put it another way, yeah, it got a little bit silly. And at that stage, spending $300 on one of these cards was probably about right. $250, $300. That's a huge amount of money. The thing is, in Pokemon we have pre-releases. And pre-releases kind of tend to mess everything up. Because you see, a pre-release happens a couple of weeks before the set comes out. And what that means is that everybody gets very, very excited about these new cards, but you can't actually go and buy the new cards. You can't go into a shop and buy them, you cannot buy a booster box and pull them, etc. So what happens is that everybody wants to get their hands on these new cards, but the amount of people actually selling them are extremely slim. Very small amount of people selling. So the people that are selling can command a much higher price. And what you're basically doing is paying a premium for being allowed to get the card early. And that's what you're doing with Charizard VMAX. You are paying a premium so that you can get the card early. Is it worth paying the premium to get the card early? And the answer is, it might actually be. Because you see, if you're the first person to get the Charizard, then you can be the first person to grade the Charizard. And if you're the first person to grade the Charizard, then that can make a rather huge difference. Now, there's been a bunch of Japanese Charizards graded. As a quick little side note here, the Charizard in Japan really is not a particularly valuable card. And the reason it's not a particularly valuable card is because it just came out in a deck. You bought a Charizard VMAX deck, and you got yourself one of the VMAXs, and you got yourself two of the regular Charizard. So that stopped the price of these Charizards getting silly. There is an exception. We'll get there in a moment. But essentially, if you can be the first person to get your hands on a Charizard, then you can be the first person to grade a Charizard. That is, send it off to a company who will put it in a nice little slab of plastic and say, hey, this is in really good condition. And as a nice example of this, over on the 10th of August, there was a Beckett Grade 10. Now, Beckett 10s are actually really sought after. The reason essentially is because they're much harder to get than PSA 10s. And what you see here is that it sold for $705. Well, that's an awful lot of money. And if you're paying $300 for a card, but you can sell it on a week or two later for $700, that's pretty gosh darned awesome. And that's why you pay the premium at the beginning. Now, some people just buy them early to have them early. I don't agree with that at all. You could wait a couple of weeks and save yourself a significant amount of money. I don't think it's terribly sensible to buy them early for your collection. But if you're buying them early with the view to grade them and be some of the first to sell them graded, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. So the question then becomes, all right, Wassy, you've given me the preamble, you've told me about the card, you've told me about why it sells so much early, you've told me about grading it early and all of that, but how much are these actually worth? And the answer is probably somewhere in the region of about $100. You see, you can go out right now and you can head on over to trollandtoad.com and you can buy one for $125. And that's from a shop which needs to make a profit, etc., etc. You can go and buy one from TCG Player right now for $125, including shipping. But again, these are being sold through places where you need to give a cut to the website, so they're always going to be slightly more expensive. If we have a look at some other recent sold listings, we can see a hefty amount of fluctuation, but we can see that they're selling for kind of 110 to 170. But bearing in mind, even these listings I'm showing you here are not up to the minute listings. Here's a snapshot from a couple days later, which shows if you're going by eBay sold, which is, it's hard to actually really get a proper price on Pokemon cards, but eBay sold just shows what people are actually paying. We're looking more in the 110 to 130 range. I know there's one that sold for 145, but you're talking 120, 115, and 122. So honestly, $100 to $125, that is about what they're worth right now. Now, there is an exception to this, and the exception is those prize ones over in Japan. You see, the prize cards over in Japan, the ones that were given for winning pre-releases, oh lordy, ladies and gentlemen, those are worth a rather huge amount of money indeed. These are selling for $9,000. And I don't mean they're being listed for $9,000. I don't mean they're having best offers accepted at a vastly reduced rate. I mean they are selling for $9,000. There's three I've got on the screen here now. One sold for $9,150, one sold for $8,900, and one sold for $8,890 or dollars. We're looking at dollars here. If you can get one of those, they're huge. The fact of the matter is, a lot of people want this Charizard VMAX to be as rare as the shiny Charizard. And the reality is that's not going to happen. The shiny Charizard was part of Hidden Fates. And in Hidden Fates, you could get the shiny GXs, but the shiny GXs were exceedingly rare. They were rarer than VMAXs are in this particular set. And even if you pulled a shiny GX, there were 35 different shiny GXs. So even when you pulled a shiny GX, which wasn't terribly easy, you still only had a 1 in 35 chance of it being Charizard, which is not high. Whereas the VMAXs, which are a lot less rare than the shiny GXs in Hidden Fates, there aren't that many VMAXs. In fact, in the entire set, there are 7. So if you pull a VMAX, and you're going to get 1 or 2 of them in a box, you've got a 1 in 7 chance of it being a Charizard. It's not going to be as rare or as valuable as that shiny Charizard. I know people have been paying a lot more than that in the run-up to the release of the set, and I know that the Rainbow Rare Charizard really is dumb expensive over in Japan, but there aren't very many of them at all. But the reality is, this Charizard VMAX, right now, if you want an approximate value, you're looking at about $120. And the reality is, that is just going to keep falling over time. I expect it to settle under 100. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. So there we go. Different kind of video today, but one addressing a question a lot of people have asked. As always, do let me know if these are the kind of questions you want answered on this channel. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think. I want to know if you've bought a Charizard. I want to know if you've sold one and how much for. I want to know if you've bought one and how much for. I want to know if you're planning on getting it graded and whether you think it's going to be worth loads in the future. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can go exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.